Ahlan wa sahlan. Welcome to the Oriental Café, a podcast where we will sit at the same table to explore the fascinating worlds of Egyptian dance, personal empowerment, and halas, life. I'm your host, Joana Saahirah, world-renowned Oriental dancer, teacher, choreographer, and author, the creator of the pioneering Joana Saahirah's World and Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School. I will meet you at the Oriental Café every 2 weeks, alone or with a guest, sharing intimate yet universal conversations. In agreement or disagreement, we will create bridges and inspire each other, because the world is only one, and so is our human soul. Ready to fall in love? Yalla bina! Five steps to become a more creative dancer, a more creative person, period. Here's the theme of this fascinating episode of the Oriental Café podcast, episode number 20, by yours truly, your host, Joana Saahirah. Now, I gotta make a disclaimer. Creativity is a central subject in my work in Egyptian dance and essentially in my life. I have always been a compulsive creator. I've always noticed how important creativity was for human beings, not only for myself, but for people in general. And most importantly, I've always noticed that it was through creativity that I discovered who I am, that I expressed who I am, the way I used to bring forth the identity I was born with, and the self-empowerment tool I used and keep using whenever I need to heal, whenever I get lost and I need to find my way back home. Creativity saves my life every day. It's the place, the safe haven I go back to whenever I feel sad, whenever I've suffered a loss, whenever I feel disoriented. It is not just a detail. It is an essential part of our human experience. And in this episode, I am going to share practical tips that will make you instantly more creative in whatever you do. That includes Egyptian dance, but it's not resumed to it. Now, before we go into it, I will advise you to subscribe to our podcast newsletter. If you do so, you receive a bonus PDF that comes along with this particular episode. It's a bonus PDF with my personal picks of the favorite books on creativity. That's my personal list of the best books on creativity that I know of. And you are going to receive it inside our newsletter only. Find the link to subscribe to our newsletter, receive this bonus and many others that are coming with our episodes in the description box below this video. That's where the link to the podcast newsletter is, or in the show notes if you're listening to the episode on the audio platforms. Claim your bonus sheet and claim the right to be a part of our inside community at the Oriental Café podcast. Now, at the end of this episode, I'm also going to answer a couple of questions our community sent me, what they want to know about creativity. Yes, I'm going to answer them, and I'm pretty sure they are going to inspire a lot of you, because the questions we have as dancers are pretty much the same. So I will invite you to stay until the end, because that is going to be an extra that you cannot miss. Now, let's go directly into it. The first step to become more creative as a dancer and in everything else you may do is perhaps too obvious, but something that I see very little of. So although it may sound obvious, it's not at all. And that's the belief, the core belief, the conviction that you are creative. Now, if you have been my student at Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School, in festivals around the world, in my private coaching, if you have been coached by me at some point, you know that I am a keen fan of creativity challenges. I often ask my students for creative tasks. to create their own dance combo, or to create their own movement, or to create their own musical interpretation, or to create their own choreography, their own performance, their own whatever. I am always pushing students into the fire in the best possible way. That also means that I listen to a lot of excuses, and at the top comes, I am not creative enough. I don't have it in me. People truly believe they're not creative. And I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm here to tell you it is bonkers and it makes no sense. In thousands of dances that I have coached, from beginners to super well-known professional dancers, I have not met one single dancer who was not creative. Now, if we talk about talent, we're gonna talk about a completely different subject, but that's not the topic of this episode. We're talking about creativity, and that, I can assure you, it's within you. It's not a privilege of a few. It doesn't require a special enlightenment or a special ray of inspiration. You are a creative being. If you are a human being, you are creative. The problem is, if you don't believe you're creative, you're not going to use your creativity. So you're blocked and self-sabotaging from the beginning. You're not going to create your own stuff if you believe there is no creativity to be had, to be used. If you believe you're not a creative person, you're going to keep doing what everyone else is doing. You're going to look outside instead of looking within and ask, what are they doing and how are they doing it? Let me do the same. That is the most uncreative, dishonoring thing you can do to yourself. Yes, you are creative, and the first step to create more and to become better at it is to be sure of it. You have to know you're creative and you have a specific point of view which nobody else has, because you have an individual angle. There is no one else like you, and that is your power. I'm sure you've heard this before. It is true. It is a fact, not an opinion. And it is something that you have to acknowledge and embrace as soon as possible. That is, if you want to lead a creative dance in life. Know that you're creative, embrace it, celebrate it, and use it. That's step number 1. Step number 2. Do the deed instead of thinking about it or talking about it. Now, there is a huge distance between the world of ideas, what we imagine we can do, what we idealize as the perfect outcome. I would do this, or I can do this, I will do that, and the world of actual deeds. One thing is thinking about it, planning about it, talking about it. Another very completely different thing is to do it. But the only way to know how far your creativity can take you is by doing it. Thinking about it and talking about it is not gonna do the trick. It's not gonna take you there. You have to get out of your head and get into your hands, wrap up your sleeves and do the deed. Whatever the deed there is on the table, right? I mean, these days, I'm writing a new book. So that's one of the several things I'm creating. I'm not going to lie. Some days I don't feel inspired, and I sit at my desk to write, as I do practically every day, at least 6 days per week. And I feel, oh my God, what's going to happen? Nothing is going to happen because I'm dry. I'm tired, or I'm unfocused. I'm not in a good place. But once I get the waters running, once I get it going, once I write the first phrase, once I engage with the deed, creativity starts to flow. The muses of inspiration reward the ones who are in it, engaged with it, doing it, facing their potential and their limits, because that's what happens when you wrap up your sleeves and you do the deed instead of just thinking about it. The muses of inspiration, whoever they are, they're watching you. And if you have the humbleness, the discipline, and the hard-working mindset, perhaps, if necessary, to get yourself involved with whatever you want to create. And instead of thinking about it, get immersed in it and do it to the best of your ability, they will reward you. Ideas will start to flow. An insight will come out of nowhere. There is a side of inspiration and a side of creativity there that is full of mystery. We don't fully control it. I don't know what ideas will come to the surface. I don't know when they will come, if they will come. There is a part of the process I control and a part that I do not control. So I have to focus on the part of the process that I control. That's going into my creative space and doing it, engaging with it. Even if I don't feel inspired already, that's my part of the job. How that will unlock my creative juices and where those creative juices will take me, I don't control. So I'm just open for it. I am curious to know where this will take me. I'm kind of in it and outside of it, observing the process. And I don't feel the pressure of having to control the entire journey. Again, there is a side of it that I do control. I do it. I put myself in it, I wrap up my sleeves and do it. That I control. But where that's gonna take me and how it's gonna take me there, I have no idea. And you know what? It is part of the fun, not knowing where that is gonna take you and how it's gonna take you there, right? So do the deed. Get out of your head and do the deed. Face your creative potential, how far it can take you, and face your limitations. This is one of the reasons why so many of us will prefer to never do it, never actually create the stuff, because we're afraid to discover that we're not that creative after all, or we're afraid to discover we are super creative. What am I going to do with this now? Oh my God, I built this, I created that. I have observed students who get shocked, and the word is shocked, at how creative they are. And they tell me, Joana, I had no idea. I had no idea this was in me. What do I do with this? It can be overwhelming. The things you discover about yourself, about your creative potential when you're actually creating can be scary, and it can be life-changing, right? If you discover, oh my God, I have so much in me. I have so much that can come to the surface, so much of interesting stuff to say. What am I going to do about it? This stirring of your internal world can be scary to a lot of us, but hey, this is life. Creativity is life. It's supposed to be an adventure. So stop being a control freak. Get yourself into it. Wrap up your sleeves, accept your limitations, and accept the infinite potential that lies within, and see where they will take you. Have fun on the road there. Okay, that's step number 2. So believe you're creative. Know that you are. All right, I know that you are, but you have to know that you are. Then, instead of thinking about it, do the deed. Engage with the creative process, and ideas and creative light will come from that engagement, right? That's step number 2. Step number 3 is a double step. Know thyself and express thyself, and detach yourself from the opinions of others. Be comfortable being disliked. Be comfortable being liked or ignored. Let's go for the first part of the step. Know thyself and express that identity. I have to know who am I and create from that identity, create from within. Rest assured, if I'm following what others are doing and copying what they're doing instead of creating from within, I am not a creator, I'm a copycat. I have to make that clear. Yes, a lot of us prefer to do whatever others are doing because it's easier. The formulas have been tested. It is so much more comfortable. It doesn't require work or time or anything. Basically just steal each other's ideas and ways of doing things and concepts and dance and whatever. I mean, I agree, it's easier, but it dishonors the unique individual that you are. It dishonors the unique creative potential I know for a fact lies within you. So instead of copying what others are doing, and looking outside constantly for answers and references, start to look within. What do I want to say? Who am I? What do I need to express? How do I see this piece of music? How do I see this movement? What do I want to paint? What do I want to sing? What do I want to cook? What do I want to materialize? Creativity is the materialization of something that was not there. Think in terms of birth, right? What is birth? There was no person, and suddenly a person comes from within another person. That is a creation. The greatest metaphor for creativity, it's birth. You gestate an idea. You arbor it, you nurture it, and then you give birth to it. You bring it forth. Is a product of your internal world, of your genetic code, of your DNA. It comes from within. It never comes from outside. So know yourself and use yourself as a reference. That's your starting point. This place within, where nobody else has access. Only you have access to it. Access that core. Access that individuality and express yourself from there. And of course, come to terms with the fact that when you create something coming from within, you don't know how people are going to react. If they're going to ignore you, if they're going to love what you did, if they're going to reject your creation. And mind you, if we're talking about creativity as a process of an internal call and an internal expression, if someone doesn't like what you created, it feels like a personal attack. Because it comes from you, it comes from within, it's a part of your identity, and people are not liking it or they're ignoring it. Oh my God, I feel attacked. They don't like me. And this is the ego talking, right? Because we gotta get real. We gotta get real. I don't love everyone, and I don't love everything. It's a fact. I'm not saying that I only love interesting things or interesting people. No, I have my own criteria, my own personal taste. It's relative. It's not necessarily better or worse. It's relative. It's subjective. Yani, the things I like, the people I relate to. But I don't like everyone, and I don't like everything. If I don't like someone or something, I ignore them. I don't hurt them. I don't speak badly of them. I just ignore them. The same way I don't like everything others create, naturally, not everyone will like what I create. I don't expect it. I don't have such an expectation. I expect myself to love it. I want to love what I create because it's my baby. It came from my womb. It came from within. I have to like it. I have to love it. It's my son. It's my daughter. It's my child. Of course, but other people don't have that obligation. So detach yourself from the obligation of having to please others, because that will limit your creative expression. You're going to search for clues outside, again, of what should I do? Do they like this? Do they like that? I wonder if they will applaud this. I wonder if they will like that. Instead of looking within and creating from that identity, you're still a slave to the outside world. And the outside world is not even the best judge. It's not Jesus Christ. It's not an authority that you can rely on. Okay? So have the courage to be liked, disliked, ignored. Put your ego aside. Allow yourself to be led by your soul. The soul doesn't care if it's liked or not. It is what it is, right? It is strong. It is stable. It is grounded. Create from within and detach yourself from the weight of other people's expectations and preferences, okay? That's step number 3. Step number 4, embrace your first shitty draft. Now, this is a reference from an author called Anne Lamott. She has published a book that I adore. It's one of the books on the list that I'm offering the subscribers of our podcast newsletter. It's called Bird by Bird. It's about writing, but it could be about the creative process in any area. That includes Egyptian dance. In Bird by Bird, Anne Lamott introduces a concept that I have borrowed and shared with my students all the time. That is the shitty first draft. What is a shitty first draft? It is the assumption that you're not going to create a masterpiece in a week. It is the assumption that you can create something average or even bad, and you can work from it. You can improve it. You can come back to it. You can use it as a base and polish it, eliminate, add stuff, change stuff, erase it all together and start again, but coming from that starting point. This is one of the biggest tricks or doors to true creativity. Creativity that is not only inside your head, but creativity that is palpable, that is materialized, right? Instead of aiming at creating a masterpiece on the spot, and it can happen, but it's rare, allow yourself to come back to a shitty first draft as many times as possible. That takes a lot of the pressure off your shoulders. Now, let me tell you a story, and you know I love stories because I think they're so powerful. During all the years I was living and working in Egypt as a performer, mostly, I was also studying and working with Mahmoud Reza. A lot of you know how important Mahmoud was and will always be to me. The father of Egyptian folklore, the creator of the Breda troupe, my dearest teacher and best friend. And I remember him coming into the studio and choreographing a dance piece, for instance, and coming out of the studio each morning, not necessarily fully satisfied with what he had done. Very often we would be working on a piece and he would tell me it's not good, but it's done. Tomorrow we'll come back to it and see. We will edit this piece. We will polish it. We will change it. We will use it eventually. We will see where this piece can take us. We will work on it. Although he was a creative genius with more than 50 years of experience on his back, so I met Mahmoud in his 80s, and he had done everything. He was and will always be in the annals of history of Egyptian dance, right? So he had no reason to doubt himself, but he was very much aware of the creative process. So he was not stressed about not creating something extraordinary. He was totally fine with it. This morning's work was not good. This is mediocre, but maybe today will be better. So we'll come back to what we have done and we will improve it. We will polish it. We will move from there. This is a kind of discipline and a kind of humbleness and a kind of, I would call it a habit of coming back to your shitty first drafts that most dancers don't have. Once again, they want fast results. They're too afraid of putting themselves to the test. They're too lazy sometimes to do the work and to make an effort. And yes, you have to tire yourself in your creative endeavors. It is tiring. It's pleasurable, but it is an effort. You have to push the baby out of the womb. Otherwise, it's never born. Okay, and pushing is hard. It can be hard. But you have to accept that independently of how creative or even talented you may be, masterpieces usually take time. They usually take time and space. So you got to offer yourself the opportunity to create mediocre things, terrible things, and then work from those. Have the humbleness to come back to it and improve it and juice it and elevate it as much as possible. Take time, slow down, and don't go for shortcuts or for fast formulas that lead nowhere except cliches. Oh my God. All right. Then we have the fifth and last step for this particular episode for more creativity. And this is something that I usually tell my students at the end of a class or when I prescribe homework assignments. And that is, P.S., don't forget to have fun. Now, here's the funny part. I think that students presume I tell them to have fun because I'm being cool, I'm being nice, or I want them to entertain themselves while they do the work. Although I want them to have fun, There is another hidden reason behind this PS, don't forget to have fun. There is a hidden agenda. All right, I confess, there is a hidden agenda there. Why do I tell them to have fun? Because I know that having fun opens your creative doors. Because I know that having fun opens the creative flow that is available to you. Now, let me tell you another story. When I first moved to Egypt, and I gathered my first orchestra and I started rehearsing with the musicians, I was shocked by a lot of differences between the way they operated and the way I operated, right? One of those differences was their approach to work. I was very serious. I was under pressure for many reasons, and justifiably so. And I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders. I was very, very committed to being the best Oriental dancer I could ever be, to having full houses in Cairo in my shows, which I did. I'm very proud of it, and a lot of it came from hard, continuous work. But I was forgetting the point of why I was there doing it. I was forgetting the point of having fun, but not my musicians. Oh no. Oh no. They had a lot of fun. While we were rehearsing, they were cracking jokes and laughing and singing, and oh my God, they're partying. While we're performing, they're having a lot of fun, and I ask myself, what the hell, guys? Are you here to work? Or is this a birthday party? And nobody invited me. What is going on? Aren't you serious professionals? Until I understood there is a correlation between having fun and creativity. The more fun they had, the more creative and inspired they became. The more fun they had, the better they performed. What? I noticed that. So then I shifted. Instead of asking, why are you guys having so much fun at work? I made sure they were having fun. I made sure they were laughing. I made sure they were being silly and playful, because I knew that playfulness, that childlike joy would make them better musicians. They would produce better music for my show. Yes, very selfish. I know. Very selfish. But that was honestly what happened. There is a correlation, let me repeat, between creativity and having fun. So don't forget to have fun. Don't make it so heavy, so serious, so important that you're not enjoying yourself. Remember, life is short, and nobody will remember probably what you created or didn't create it. And even if they do, that's not the point. Life is short. Enjoy it. And remember, the most fun you have, the better the results, the more creative you get. This is it. Oh my God. Now, if you want to claim your bonus sheet on my favorite books around the theme of creativity, this is the moment when you, my dear, and I'm getting my notes to check the questions I'm going to answer. Now, if you want a bonus sheet where I share my top picks, the best books on creativity, you already know what you got to do. Join the podcast newsletter. You're going to find the link to claim your bonus sheet and join us in the description box below this video or in the show notes if you're listening to the episode on the audio platforms. Now, the questions that a few of the dancers in our podcast community have sent me on creativity. Where do you get your creative ideas from? Now, I gotta be honest, I am what my husband calls a compulsive creative. I have no problem getting ideas. They're all over the place. I have a problem handling them all because my days only have 24 hours, just like yours, and it's hard to tend to so many ideas and wishes and desires. But one thing is for sure, being engaged with life and feeling things and enjoying life is the biggest source of creative ideas for me. All right? For me. The more engaged I am with life, the more creative I get. And that means feeling whatever you're supposed to feel, dealing with people, observing nature, observing animals, touching beautiful things, smelling the flowers, being in nature, being a student of life, reading great books, watching great movies, being inspired by life itself. The more fully engaged you are with life, the more creative you get, because life is the ultimate nurture for creative ideas. The more isolated, the more detached, the more in your world you are, in the worst possible way. I mean, the more disconnected you are from other people and from the world at large, the less creative you get. Now, on the other hand, it helps if you are also connected with yourself. So I would say there is a balance to be had between being with myself and connected with my inside world, my inner universe, and being connected with life at large around me. That balance brings the best creative ideas, at least from my experience. Then, what creative ideas are up your sleeves to help me with making time for my practice? Now, this is not about creativity, it's about discipline. And once again, guys, there is a lot to be learned about discipline and organization. I would say if you want to practice more and better, whatever you're practicing, set your priorities straight and build your days and nights around those priorities. What I find is that nowadays, especially with social media, we are inundated with invitations, distractions, temptations, and we're very weak, very vulnerable to be led astray, right? Now, I'm going to give you an example. At this point, I'm writing a new book. It's a very important project. And I'm also creating or finishing the last touches of the next edition of Joana Saahirah's signature course. Those are my priorities. Rest assured, there is other stuff going on. Our school is running. Joana Saahirah's online dance school is running with courses. I have my private coaching programs happening. I have professional mastermind happening with several dancers from around the world. There is so much that I cannot stop doing, but my focus, the largest part of my attention and focus is exactly on my priorities, the writing of the new book and the creation of the next edition of my signature course. It doesn't matter how many invitations or distractions come my way, I have to become protective of my time and my focus. I have to decide what's truly important and build my day and my night around it. So my answer to this question would be exactly that. Set your priorities straight. What are your priorities right now? And then organize your time around them. Okay, to make sure that you do your dance practice, if that's a priority. And I think it should be, because it's good for your health, it's good for your mental sanity, it is good for your mood, it is good for your physical body, for your heart, for your soul. Of course, your dance practice should always be a priority, right? So build your days and nights around it. Last but not least, how do I create more original choreographies? Now, this is a very complex question with a very long answer. We're not going to have the time for it, but I'm going to share 2 specific fast steps to create better choreographies. The first step is to master the language you're creating with. If that's Egyptian dance, you got to know more about the language of Egyptian dance technique, music, culture, mentality, how is this specific language built? What is the structure? What are the rules? How is this language built? The more you master the language, the more creative freedom you have. All right. So that's number 1. Number 2, it's practice. You have to master the language that you're using, and then you have to do it. Once again, the more you do it, the better you become at it. There is something to be said about repetition. If you're a dancer, if you're a musician, if you're a painter, if you're a writer, whatever is the field you're expressing yourself through, there is value in practicing, doing it continuously. The more you do it, the better you become at it. So remember, first, you master the language. Study Egyptian dance with professional teachers who understand the language as much as you can. And then do it, and do it. Every time you do it, you will become a little bit better, I promise you. And this is it. I will invite you one more time to do you know what? Subscribe to our podcast newsletter if you want perks, exclusive content from me and from my special guests. You will find the link to subscribe in the description box below the video or in the show notes on the audio platforms. If you want to claim your bonus PDF with my top picks, the best books on creativity, find the link below and do it. Claim it. It's yours. Take it. Last but not least, if you want to develop your creativity in the field of Egyptian dance, and if you really want to see how far this art form can take you, I will invite you to join the waiting list for my signature course, Authentic Egyptian Dance and Personal Empowerment from the ABC to Mastery. I'm going to invite you to join the waiting list. You're going to be the first to know about the next edition. This is my masterpiece in terms of teaching. You're going to learn from scratch until mastery. That's advanced level. I'm going to teach you according to my original method, bringing the best of Egypt to the table, the things you're not going to find anywhere else. I'm not saying this is the best Egyptian dance course in the world, but I'm not saying it isn't. I am guaranteeing you, you don't find anything like it anywhere, because it was creatively created. Can I say that? I just said it. It was creatively created from within. From my experience, all my career in Egypt, my career around the world, my observation, my unique perspective, having learned from the best of the best in the field, having had my name built from scratch in Cairo and then in the international circuit. Oh my God, I don't want to brag, but I have to tell you where I'm coming from. In this course, I'm going to give you the juice of the best I've learned in more than 20 years of career in this field. Egyptian dance can change your life the way it changed mine, and I am inviting you to give it a go. The link for more information on the waiting list for my signature course is also in the usual places, in the description box below this video or in the show notes below the audio episode. This is it. I will see you. And a very special guest you're gonna love at episode number 21 of the Oriental Café podcast. Until then, don't forget to join our newsletter. Don't forget to grab your sheet with my favorite books on creativity. And of course, don't forget, P.S., to have fun. I love you. I will see you and dance with you soon, either here at the podcast or at Joana Saahirah's World and Joana Saahirah's Online Dance School. All the information about our school and free learning page and so much more in the description box and in the show notes. See you soon, talk with you soon, dance with you soon, have fun with you soon. Mwah.